Good morning, everybody, and welcome once again to the LMN Live Virtual Academy classroom. My name's Chris Davies. I'm the Senior Education Specialist here with LMN, and today I'm going to be introducing you to the wonderful world of scheduling, and more importantly, how you guys can schedule your design build jobs. So by joining me today, what's going to be in it for you, and why are you here? Yeah, I do have it a little bit backwards, but let's forget that. Now, why are you here and what's going to be in it for you? Well, essentially, you've learned how to create your jobs now, right? From last week. You guys, again, in your 2-week live virtual training sessions, you've learned about your numbers. You've learned about how your numbers affect your pricing. Your pricing can then help you build your estimates. And of course, once your customers approve those estimates, you can convert them into a job. Well, now what do? Well, in order for you guys to basically know what your crews are going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, we need to schedule it, right? And so do your customers. So again, using that schedule visits and information tab available in the customer portal setup, your customers are also going to know when you are going to be starting their design build project. So this is why you guys need to learn, well, how to schedule the job in the first place. So taking a look at our agenda this morning, what exactly am I going to be walking you through? Well, first things first, we're going to be setting up the scheduling tool. So understanding how the schedule settings work and how you can set up your work calendars and your schedule crews so you know what's going to be done when and by whom. We'll also look at how you guys can see how your crews can be able to see those scheduled jobs using our LMN Crew Mobile app. And we'll actually go ahead and take that job that we created last week and get it scheduled for you. Now, always remember, throughout the course of our live virtual training this morning, if you have any questions about anything that I'm covering off, please feel free to let me know. At the very bottom of your screen in that little Zoom toolbar, you'll see there's a chat button, a Q&A box. So please ask away. I'm here to help you guys. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. And additionally, in case you guys haven't learned about this button yet, there's a little react button at the very bottom as well. So occasionally I might ask you for a little thumbs up just to let me know that you guys are good to continue on. Now, additionally, your account will look a little bit different than the one that I'm going to be walking through and demonstrating. And it's only because, well, we're different landscaping companies. You guys are your own company. Well, I represent my own company. So it will look a little bit different, but it should make sense or it should be relatable to what you guys are going to be doing in your own accounts. Now, as always, as I'm going through some of the settings or as I'm scheduling a job, feel free to do the same in your own account. And if you get stuck anywhere, please let me know. All right, hit chat, hit Q&A, and I'll try and dig you out of that little hole that you've gotten yourself into. Now, additionally, just in relation to questions, okay, if you guys have any questions that are of a private or confidential nature to your landscaping business, please remember that these live virtual training sessions are open to any landscaping company that has recently signed on with LMN and is going through the virtual training courses. So again, if you don't want to share that information with some of the other viewers, well, hey, write that question down. Reach out to our support team on chat, via email, or on the phone lines. We'll be more than happy to help you out in relation to that question you have about, well, LMN and how it affects your company. So all that aside, we now want to start taking a look at scheduling and getting a good understanding about what exactly is the LMN scheduling tool. Well, essentially, the LMN scheduling tool in LMN provides you guys with, yeah, you've read it, organization and optimization. So it's used to efficiently plan and schedule your jobs so that your crews know what they have to do on a day-to-day basis. Now, what are the benefits? And please, disregard that little spelling error on our slide here, but the benefits of being able to use the scheduling tool in LMN sorry, it's early, haven't had enough coffee yet, but essentially it allows you guys to plan your workload ahead of time. So seeing what's on the actual calendar, what your crews are going to be doing on a day-to-day basis allows you guys to plan out your workloads. If a crew is being tasked to do a job and it's going to be finishing today, well, then schedule a job to start tomorrow or Monday, whatever the case may be. Now, with this, we're going to help you guys to eliminate paper schedules. So rather than your crews carrying a clipboard around with them or a binder around with them with paper that could fall out of the truck or fall into a puddle or get wrecked, get ruined, or heaven forbid, get set on fire, all right? We want to keep everything in a digital environment. So everything that you guys schedule in your LMN desktop software will be available for your crews to be able to view in our LMN Crew mobile app. Now, you also will have the ability to schedule hundreds of jobs at once, but reality is when it comes to design build, you guys are going to be scheduling each individual job and potentially each individual work area within that job, right? So as you guys remember in the example that we created last week, our job actually has two different work areas. We have a garden beds and planting, and we have a lighting enhancement that we want to do. So again, we can either schedule out each one of those work areas individually, or we can schedule the whole job consecutively. So it really depends on you guys, but I'm going to show you how you can actually go ahead and schedule that job. Now, with optimization or the optimization ability in our scheduling tool, it pertains mostly to maintenance work. However, there are some occasions where you as a landscaping company might be doing very short, timely fashioned installs, like mulch installs, for instance, right? Or sod installations, where maybe you're only out there for a couple hours or whatever, and you're visiting multiple properties. So with that being said, can you optimize all the different job sites that your crews are going to be hitting in a day? Absolutely. But again, it's more appropriate or probably more commonly used when you're doing maintenance route for mowing visits, for instance, where you're mowing multiple customers throughout the course of a day. So again, you do have the ability to optimize and eliminate any wasted time by putting the actual job sites in an actual optimized manner so that your crews are not wasting their time driving and they're more efficient when they're actually on the job site. Now, in order to get started with LMN, there are a couple things that we need to get set up in the actual tool itself before you guys can actually start scheduling. And the first of these features, or the first of these settings that we want to start talking about, are your work calendars. And first thing, we need to understand exactly, well, hey, Chris, what exactly is a work calendar? Well, a work calendar allows you guys to schedule your work quickly and easily, but more importantly, it can be organized. So more importantly, there are two different types of work calendars that you guys are going to be setting up, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But essentially, a work calendar is basically there to help you guys schedule the type of work that you do. So for instance, in your accounts, when you first got started with LMN, we provided you with two primary work calendars, one for design build and one for maintenance. Now, if you guys want to diversify the types of work that you do a little bit further, maybe you want to do a work calendar for pool installations or outdoor kitchens or for driveway builds, whatever the cases might be, you can do that within your account. So you can create multiple types of work calendars or multiple work calendars in general within your account to keep things better organized. Maybe you have one individual in your company that oversees all the driveway builds. So let's use that calendar to actually schedule out all of our driveways, our patios, our deck and fences, and so on and so forth, right? Pool installations, right? Keep everything really nicely organized. Now, when you're creating your work calendars, there are two different types that you guys can choose from. There's recurring work calendars, which we're not going to be discussing or talking about too much today because, well, that's for maintenance scheduling or recurring repeatable work. We're going to be discussing non-recurring work calendars today, or the non-recurring work calendar type, where these are kind of like your one and done type jobs. Where again, design build, right? Where you're doing an install, sod installation, decks, patios, driveways, right? So on and so forth, where you're going to the customer's property once, maybe over the span of a week, 2 weeks, a month, maybe the entire summer, depending on how big the project is. But again, that's going to be a non-recurring job, okay, within a specific amount of man hours. So to get things started, or to give you guys a quick introduction, first, Make sure everybody's ready. Give me a quick little thumbs up at the very bottom of your screen if you guys are ready to learn about how to create your work calendars or get started with the actual scheduling tool in LMN. And they're flying up my screen. Thank you very much for paying attention. It also gives me a good little indication to let me know that you guys just don't have me playing in the background, right? That you're actually watching or actually learning about what I'm talking about. But anyway, besides the point, let's get into our actual scheduling session together, shall we? So first things first, let me share my screen. And just a quick little heads up, everybody, a prevailing little message to everybody out there, just to kind of give you guys a little piece of info coming soon to a city or becoming available to to you guys very, very soon. We have our LMN Academy in-person classes. So if you guys are interested in learning about LMN, but in an in-person environment, basically like going back to school, check out these little boxes here where you guys can take our 2-day in-person or our 4-day in-person classes. And of course, we'll walk you guys through everything relatable to LMN based on those 2 topics. Okay, now log into your LMN accounts. And once you're logged into your LMN accounts, you're going to go into your settings menu in the bottom left-hand corner. So once LMN decides to open up, because, well, it too hasn't maybe had enough coffee yet this morning, we're going to click on our settings menu. And under our scheduling tool settings, the first thing we're going to be talking about before we jump into our work calendars is our basic schedule settings. Okay. Now, this won't take us too long to cover off, but it's pretty straightforward and pretty easy to let you guys know. So number one, this is basically how your jobs are going to be listed in either the calendar view or in the whiteboard view. Now, it is a little bit different than your estimate naming convention that you guys learned about last week when you were setting up your estimates or going into your estimate settings, but it basically follows the same relative principles, okay? You've got 3 primary name components at the very bottom, which you guys could choose or which you can basically set up any way you want. Using the drop-down menu, you can use any of the fixed criteria, okay, to set up your actual job's name. And of course, at the very bottom of the page, it will give you a description of what that looks like or a sample of what that will look like. Always remember at the top of the page, you've got 2 custom text fields. So if you want to add in anything of your own creation, feel free, okay? So as you can see in my account, I've got Henderson or the job's name, then the job address, and then, of course, one of my custom text fields to indicate that this is a job created in 2024. All right, very, very straightforward. But again, custom text, you do you. The account that's in front of you is yours. Do with it as you please. All right. If you've made any changes to this page or you're just setting this up for the first time and you like what you see, please make sure you click that Save Changes up the very top button, or sorry, in the very top right-hand corner, because not everything is saved automatically in LMN, and this is one of those examples. All right, so keep that in mind. So the actual schedule settings aside, we now want to start taking a look at our actual work calendars. And like I mentioned at the start of our presentation today, or the start of our class today, you guys can have as many calendars as you want created within your actual accounts. Now, you can keep it very, very simplified and just use the 2 that we've provided with you as a starting point, okay, with design, build, and maintenance. But if you wanted to start diversifying your work a little bit further, well, this is where you guys are going to do it, by creating those individual work calendars. So how do we do it, and what are the actual steps? Well, to get started or to add in a new work calendar into your accounts, please make sure that you click on that Add New in the very top right-hand corner. And once you add in that Add New, LMN will provide you with a pop-up screen or a pop-up window that will ask you to fill out some criteria. Now, not everything is mandatory on this page, but you'll note that anything that is mandatory or needs to be filled out will have a little asterisk or a little star, okay, beside each one of the actual field headings. So the first thing that is mandatory, that you have to put in an actual calendar name. So in this case here, I can actually use lighting enhancements, for instance, okay? And I can enter that name convention in. Now, when I select what type of calendar I want to choose, it will automatically default to non-recurring. Why? Well, guys, very, very straightforward. N comes before R in the alphabet. So non-recurring is obviously going to pop up before recurring. So if we click on non-recurring or just leave it as the default, well, we're kind of already set. And that's one step that we technically don't really have to do. Now, the next filter or the next option is if this calendar is active or not. Now, this could be pertaining to the type of work that you do, for instance. So if you're in Toronto, like I am, or in a city that the temperatures or the weather conditions are very similar to Toronto, if you were to create a work calendar for your pool installations, for instance, well, chances are probably pretty good that you're not going to be doing pool installs in the winter, right? So from November until, well, February or March, or really whenever the winter decides to finish. So you can always deactivate a work calendar so that it's no longer available for you to schedule work to, and no longer available for your crews to be able to find their work. So again, if you're doing pool installations and you're in Toronto, well, chances are probably pretty good. Again, you're not doing these in the winter. So deactivate the calendar. And then in the summertime, when you're back to doing those installs, reactivate the calendar. Okay. Next is a non-required field to assign a default manager to this type of work or to this work calendar. So again, if you do have an individual that's responsible or who oversees all the lighting jobs that you're doing, you can select from the list of users that you've added into your account and basically create an additional filter when you guys are using your calendar view or your whiteboard view. All right. So it just keeps things a little bit more organized, or becomes an additional filter that allows you to see the work that maybe this individual oversees. Okay. Or you can just leave it as no default. Entirely up to you guys. Now, schedule color. This is where we get into a little bit of art and psychology 101. Okay. So when you guys are setting up a work calendar, we're going to ask you to choose a color. So this is where the art class or art 101 comes in. So in this case here, I have the full spectrum of the rainbow available to me in this little slide bar down the very bottom. And with every color that is available, or every color that I land on in that actual block, okay, I can choose black in the bottom left-hand corner, black in the bottom right-hand corner. I can pick the deepest shade of that color that I landed on in the top right-hand corner, or anything in between. Okay, and up in the top left-hand corner, you can choose white. Now, if there's one thing that I want you guys to really remember from today's session, never, ever, ever, please remember this. Write it down if you have to, okay? But never, ever, ever choose white, okay? And the reason why I'm telling you this, and the reason why I'm making such a big deal about this, guys, is because if you guys choose white as your schedule work calendar color, you are not going to be able to read or see any of the jobs that you have created or that you have scheduled on the work calendar at all, okay? Because, guys, the text that we just set up in those schedule settings and set up that naming convention, the text is white. White text, white background, snowflake, and a snowstorm. You're not going to see anything, all right? So do yourselves a favor. Heed my warning, okay? And again, hopefully you've written this down somewhere, or maybe you put a sticky note on your computer, or you've already sent the text message to the individual that does all the scheduling work for you, whatever the case may be, but don't ever, ever choose white, okay? You're never going to be able to see it. I would also recommend, while we're on that subject, to maybe stay away from the highlighter colors, right? Like bright yellows and bright greens and bright oranges and anything bright. Okay, if it's difficult for you guys to read or discern white text from that background, it's not going to be, fun for you moving forward. So keep that all in mind. Okay. Now, here's where the psychology part comes in, or psychology 101 comes in. We would recommend, not a rule, but we would recommend that you guys choose a color that represents that type of work that you're doing. So you can associate the color to the type of work. So for instance, if you guys are doing driveways and you're setting up a work calendar for any paving work or any hardscape construction work, you might want to use black or gray or whatever, because you can relate that color to the type of materials that you guys are going to be installing on that job site, for instance. Right? So again, if you're doing pool installations, maybe choose a deep blue or whatever the case may be. Now, you'll learn a little bit more about this as well if any of you are going to be attending our scheduling maintenance section or session, okay, later on today, where if you're going to be doing maintenance work, okay, cutting grass, doing any lawn care or anything like that, well, that might be green, okay? So you can easily discern or easily tell which are your maintenance jobs, which are your install or design build jobs, okay? Very, very simple. So again, a little bit of art and psychology 101 for you guys to kind of give you an idea. So with lighting, yeah, I would probably say I would go with a yellow, but for today's sake, okay, I'm actually going to go with a blue, or I can even go into the purples here. And I can say, you know what, lighting is going to be like Grimace purple, for those of you who remember Grimace from McDonald's, okay? Once you've chosen your color, click on confirm to lock that color in and assign it to your actual work calendar. Now, the next few options that you guys are going to be going through, some of these are mandatory, some of these are not. The first one that is not mandatory is what is your defaulted crew size. And again, remember, this is a default. So when you guys are actually scheduling out your work, you can obviously override this at any given time. So what you want to think about, if this is a setting that you guys actually want to set up within your accounts, you can basically say, well, if I'm doing lighting enhancements, typically, how many crew members do I send to do this type of work? Do I send 2 guys? Do I send 3 people? Do I send 4 people, 5 people? How many people do I send? So in this case here, I'm just going to leave it at 3. Now, these next 3 fields are mandatory. You do need to fill this out. And why? Well, because it's going to help you guys with your overall scheduling and your overall planning. What do I mean? Well, essentially what's going to happen now is it's going to basically allow LMN to do all that math and all that calculations in the background for you, so you don't have to. Essentially what we wanted to basically set up here is indicate on a typical workday, Monday through Friday, how many hours are your crews in the field or on a job site? Think about it that way. Or what time do they clock in the morning or start their day? What time do they finish their day? So if you run a 10-hour workday, 8 to 6, 7 to 5, whatever the case may be, okay, you might want to put in 10 hours, right? So we work from 7 o'clock in the morning until 5 p.m., right? That's when the sun is shining, well, at least here in Toronto. If you're in a different area like California or something like that, it might be a little bit better, might be also a little bit nicer, but essentially, how many typical work hours in a day do you have? Now, of those 10 hours, how many are actually productive on a job site? So if you look at this, maybe you want to look at how many hours are unproductive first, where maybe we can do a little bit of simple math here. So if my crews, okay, typically spend 15 minutes in the morning loading up the truck or the trailer, and then they have a 15-minute break in the morning, and then they have a half-hour lunch, and then a 15-minute break in the afternoon, and then they have 15 minutes to unload at the end of the day. Well, all together combined, well, that's roughly an hour and a half. So if I go into my unproductive hours per day and put down 1.5, not 105, 1.5. Yeah, I suck at typing, by the way. All right, so 1.5. Simple math here, guys. 1.5 from 10 is 8.5. Now, what LMN is going to do for you is when you guys have put together your job and established your estimated, keep this in mind, your estimated amount of man hours to do or to complete that work area or that project, okay, LMN will automatically assume that you've got 8.5 productive hours per day to do that work, multiplied by however many crew members you assign to that job. So in the case of sending 2 individuals, well, essentially you can get 17 man hours of work out of that 140 man hour project done per day, and LMN will schedule it accordingly. If you're sending 4 guys, well, it's going to be 34 hours per day, right? So on and so forth, right? So this is why we strongly suggest, or we strongly urge everybody to please make note that when you guys are estimating out any of your work areas or any of your projects that you're sending a proposal to your customer, that you accurately discern or you accurately calculate how many man hours of work it's going to take to actually do that project. So always remember, when you guys basically build out your estimate, and if you are estimating out that you're going to be sending 4 guys, okay, for 34 hours, based on this work calendar, this job could get done in 1 day. Okay, so keep that in mind when you guys are looking at scheduling and job creation and estimating moving forward, that we rely solely on man hours of work. Okay, now additionally, down the very bottom, you're going to get your fluff factor. I recommend leaving this at 0. But if you guys want to add in a percentage of time or a buffer of time on that gets added to every job that you schedule per day, okay, on this work calendar, okay, you guys can do this to account for delays because of rain, delays because of vendors, whatever the cases might be. Now, you're probably saying, well, Chris, why did you recommend leaving it at 0? Well, because if you guys have any delays, especially from your vendors, for instance, maybe you're waiting on some paver stones to be delivered to the property and the vendor calls you up and says, hey, you know what, we're going to be a day behind. Well, rather than accounting or relying on that fluff factor, just move the date. Okay, and I'll show you guys what I mean in a few moments when we get into the actual scheduling and show you guys how you can manipulate the actual calendar. So I recommend leaving this fluff factor at 0. Okay. Now, your next option is rounding to the nearest. It defaults to half day. Again, non-required. You don't have to do this if you don't want to, but you can choose if you want to round up your time or the hours that are left over, okay, to the nearest hour, 2 hours, half day, full day, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, or leave it or just choose no rounding. It's entirely up to you guys how you want to play around with this feature. Now, the last 2 little options that you guys are going to have to fill out when it comes to your work calendars is basically telling LMN what days of the week do you work. Now, by default, okay, remember what defaults do, right? They can always be overridden, they can always be changed, but by default, what days of the week do you work? Are you Monday to Friday? Are you Monday to Thursday? Are you Monday to Saturday? Are you Monday to Sunday? Like full week? What is your work week, or how does your work week look? Now, you want to look at this at a typical. Okay, so if you typically run Monday to Friday, just basically identify that you work Monday to Friday. Now, remember that anytime you schedule a job, if it's a rush job or an important job, or you have to get this job sooner than originally planned, or whatever the cases might be, you can always schedule that job to take place on a Saturday or roll over into a Saturday and Sunday. It's entirely up to you guys. But 9 times out of 10, Monday to Friday, book it Monday to Friday. Okay. Now, the very bottom, you're going to notice a little checkbox here that asks you if you want to skip holidays. Okay. Now, skipping holidays is not like skipping a Saturday or a Sunday or anything like that. It's basically skipping your statutory or stat holidays. So you need to get this set up in your calendars. So in this case here, I'm going to save this and add this lighting calendar or lighting enhancements to my actual list of work calendars. But now I want to set up my actual holiday schedule. So go back into your settings, and in your scheduling settings, we're going to skip over schedule crews for a moment. We're going to come back to that in a moment, and we're going to click on holidays. This is where you need to tell LMN, because in case you guys haven't figured this one out, LMN doesn't exactly know where you are. We don't know if you're in Toronto, if you're in Ohio, if you're in Kalamazoo, okay, or wherever you might be, okay? We don't know that, and the software doesn't know that. So what we need to do, you need to tell LMN what are your statutory holidays that you are not going to have crews available, right? What days of the week or what calendar days are not going to be worked on, right? Things like, for my Canadian friends, we have the August Civic Long Weekend coming up, right? It's basically starting very, very soon. So that's a stat holiday. We don't work, right? I'm not working. So my crews aren't going to be working. So I'm going to put that into my schedule calendar or into my holiday settings to say, well, we are not going to be working on Monday. Things like Christmas, New Year's, Canada Day, Independence Day, Thanksgiving, okay? Martin Luther King Day, President's Day, right? All of these statutory holidays where you're not working, LMN needs to know what these days are. If you have shutdown for Christmas, or if you give your crews Black Friday off the day after Thanksgiving, okay, you want to indicate that in LMN as well. So what you want to do is click on the add new to add in a new calendar. I've already got a 2024 calendar kind of already preset, and I know that January 1st is New Year's Day. We don't work. February 19th here in Toronto is Family Day, right? We don't work. December 25th, Christmas Day. We don't work, okay? And so on and so forth. So if I wanted to add in the August Civic Long Weekend, I would basically go to my Add New button, click that little calendar icon, and basically go to August and go, yeah, you know what, August 5th, okay, that's going to be the Civic holiday, okay? Enter that in here, and that way, if I schedule any work, it will skip that day automatically for me, right? I'll click on Save, okay? Keeping things really nice and simple for you, okay? Now, once you've set up, if you don't know what your stat holidays are, not everybody does, okay? It's not like, I mean, I know when I have a day off, which, I'm sure all of you guys do as well. But realistically, you don't know what every or when your actual stat holidays fall, right? I mean, some of you might, and that's great if you do. Enter them in nice and easy. But if you don't know what they are, Google it, okay? Google stat holidays in Tennessee, stat holidays in Toronto, stat holidays in Calgary, Alberta. Okay, whatever the cases might be, just put in or just Google what are the stat holidays, take that information and plug it into LMN, right? And it will basically give you all of your stat holidays. Now, word of advice to everybody as well. Some stat holidays will fall on a Saturday or a Sunday, right? We've had Independence Day on a Sunday, we've had Canada Day on a Saturday, and so on and so forth. Now, we already give our crews the weekends off traditionally. So if I want to give them a long weekend so they can actually have that Canada Day stat on top of their weekend, I might also put in a day of observance. So like you guys had July 4th, I think it was last year or a couple years ago, I believe it was on a Sunday, okay? Maybe you want to give them July 5th off as well. So you give them a day of observance. So you enter that into your LMN account as a day of observance or Independence Day observed. Whatever the cases might be, or however way you guys want to set it up. It's entirely up to you, okay? But keep in mind, we don't know where you are. We don't know what your stat holidays are. You need to tell LMN what they are. And it wouldn't hurt you guys if you go ahead and put in your stat holidays for 2025 and potentially even 2026, okay? If Google knew what those ones were. Now, that's your actual work calendar settings. So based on that, what exactly are the best practices when it comes to setting up your work calendars in LMN? Well, essentially, first, set them up by your individual divisions, okay? So you want to set up a maintenance work calendar, you've already got one. Design build, you've already got one. But if you want to add in other divisions, feel free to do so, okay? Once a job is scheduled to a work calendar, it cannot be changed. Okay, let me explain that little statement. It can be changed, okay? If I schedule a design build job onto a design build work calendar, can I edit the start date, edit the crew, edit how long it's going to go for, edit the man hours of the project if I actually have a few more man hours? Absolutely. What we mean by once a job is scheduled to a work calendar, it cannot be changed, is basically if I take a maintenance job like mowing or bed maintenance or a FERT application, and I schedule it onto a design build calendar, that's gonna probably give you guys some problems. And that one cannot be just simply moved over to another work calendar. You would need to delete that job and then reschedule it appropriately. So when you guys learn about scheduling maintenance work a little bit later on, well, then you'll know how to do that. Okay, so again, you can edit a design build job on a design build work calendar, or a lighting job on the lighting calendar, a pool installation on the pool calendar. Those you can change and edit. Okay. But again, if you take a recurring work job and schedule it onto a non-recurring work calendar, it's going to give you guys some problems. Okay. Now, step number 3 or point number 3, don't forget to choose a color for each. And for those of you that are paying attention, what color are you not going to choose when you're setting up your work calendars? Hit the chat and let me know. Just want to gauge and see who's paying attention to this. Thank you, Crystal. Okay. White. Oh, Ellery. Oh, Ellery, bonus points, right? White or highlighter colors. Very, very good. Okay. Brad, white. Very good, guys. Big round of applause to you guys for, well, paying attention, right? And understanding that you are never going to choose white, right? Perfect. Now, that being set aside, we now need to know who's going to be doing the work. So we want to set up our schedule crews. So this is the who's and when's. Who or which crew is going to be doing the work and when are they going to be doing this work? So again, we need to set this up. Now you're probably thinking, well, we've already done this. We've put it in our price list, or we set up our crews, or we allocated or indicated our crew's cost when we were doing our budget. But now we want to actually assign a job to a particular crew and actually get our crew set up in our LMN accounts. So again, let's hop into LMN quickly. And under our settings menu, we're going to go to our schedule crews. Now, this part's pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Now, when you're setting up your design build crews, LMN recommends, hear me out, okay? LMN recommends that you set up your crews by the type of work that they're doing. Pool crew, hardscape crew, paver crew, okay? Or install crew, lighting crew, okay? And so on and so forth. Now, if you guys want to put these in by Mike's crew, or I'm going to use some of you as an example here, Brad's crew, Crystal's crew, Ellery's crew, okay? Can you do that? Absolutely, okay? You guys can do that. It's not unheard of and it's not wrong by any sense. If you haven't heard me say this before, I'm going to say it now. The LMN account that you guys subscribe to and that you guys are paying for is yours. Make that LMN account work for you. So if you want to name your crews by the actual crew lead's name, go ahead. Okay. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but we would recommend that you actually name them by the type of work they do. Okay. So to set up a crew, I would go and do the add new button, and I have a lighting crew already of 3 individuals. So maybe I want to set up a lighting crew of 4 individuals or 2. Okay. So here's my crew name. I'm going to enter in that crew name. Okay. So I'm going to put in the lighting crew. And in brackets, I'm going to indicate that there's 2 employees on this crew or 2 crew members on this crew, right? A lead hand or a crew lead and a crew member. Now, why do I do this? Well, because when you guys are scheduling your work, LMN doesn't automatically tell you when you are selecting a crew, how many crew members are on that crew, right? It will tell you, well, you've got your lighting crew. And once you've selected them, then it tells you how many crew members are on the crew. So what I would recommend is just in brackets, put how many crew members are, and then in the crew size, do the same thing, okay? So if I put in lighting crew 2, I'm not going to put in lighting crew 6, okay? Or crew size of 6. I'm going to put in a crew size of 2, okay? Now you've got your defaulted foreman, which you can assign here from the foreman or the crew leads that you've added into your account. And next, you've got your crew color. What color are we not going to choose? Anybody? I know I've already asked you once. Okay, Brad, white. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so again, Crystal, white in all caps. You mean business with this one. All right, and Ellery, white and highlighter, right? Exactly. You're not going to be choosing white. So again, choose a color that you can associate with that crew lead or with that crew, for instance. So again, if I know that Brad, for instance, Brad, what's your favorite color? Blue. Okay. So I'm going to use Brad. Brad, I'm going to use you as an example. Hopefully you don't mind. Okay. But if I know that Brad, okay, is the crew lead or the foreman for this crew, okay, I'm going to go to blue. Okay. And I'm going to choose a deep dark blue so I can read the white text on it. Okay. As this crew color. So now I know again, Psychology 101, that Brad's favorite color is blue. If I assign anything to the lighting crew, which is also blue, I know that that's Brad's crew. So again, I don't have to dive into this a little bit deeper to see which crew is working on it or whatever, or who's the crew lead on this job. I know that it's Brad's. Okay. So again, choose that color, lock it in, click on save. You're good to go. That's it, guys. Okay. So that's scheduling or setting up your crews. Very, very simple, very, very straightforward, not very complicated at all. So what are your best practices when it comes to setting up your crews? Name the crew by the work type as a suggestion or as a recommendation, not a rule. Okay. Choose an accent color for each crew. Again, a color that you guys can easily read white text on, and a color that you associate with that crew. Okay. And of course, choose a defaulted foreman if you want. Okay. You don't have to, but if you want to choose a default foreman, please go ahead and do so. Okay. So it keeps things really nice and easy and organized for you. Now, we've kind of got everything set up, right? We've set up our naming convention, we've set up our work calendars, we've set up our holiday schedule, and now we've set up our actual schedule crews. So how do we actually schedule a job? Well, in LMN, there are 5 different ways that you guys can schedule your work. Now, in today's session or in this session, we're only going to be talking about 3, okay? The job list, the whiteboard, or the calendar view, okay? When you guys are looking at bulk scheduling and waitlist scheduling, this pertains mostly to maintenance. So if you guys are going to be in the scheduling maintenance session a little bit later on, okay, you'll learn about those last 2 ways to schedule work, okay? Today, with design build work, we're only going to use the first 3. So the first one that we're going to be taking a look at is how do you schedule from an actual job itself, right? So once you've created your job, how do you actually go ahead and get that job scheduled? So in LMN, what do we do? So let's take a look at that job that we created with Shishini last week, okay, and how we can go ahead and get that scheduled. So I'm going to go into my jobs, and I'm going to go into my job list, and I'm going to pull up that job that Shishini created with you guys last week for July 24th, okay? So again, this was for good old Mark Johns again, okay? Yet another project for Mark Johns. Now, we want to go ahead and get this scheduled. Now, if we go down to the very bottom of the actual jobs menu and we look at the actual scheduling option down the very bottom, if we look at the scheduled visits, we don't see anything here, okay? This is a quick indicator, guys, to let you know that this job has yet to be scheduled or it hasn't been scheduled yet because we don't have any scheduled visits yet. So if we click on our scheduled visits, it'll open up an actual schedule view or a schedule overview of the job and give you guys an indication that it hasn't been scheduled yet, okay? We don't have anything on here. We don't have any details about this job yet. So if we want to schedule it, we're going to click on the plus add button up in the top right-hand corner. Now, LMN will provide you with 2 options. Now, this is where that whole, if you schedule a job to a work calendar, it cannot be changed warning that I gave you a little bit earlier. I want to schedule either a one-time job, and we'll give you a brief little overview of what a one-time job is, so that way you don't schedule it wrong, or what a recurring job is, okay? So in this case, we're doing a one-time job for installation or enhancements, okay, that do not repeat. Okay. Now, I'm sure you guys all would love these to repeat, right? I want to do a driveway for the customer today or for the next 2 weeks, and I want to go back and do another one for that same customer in 2 weeks, in 4 weeks, in 6 weeks. Okay. Because it's just obviously revenue that, well, you guys want. But for all intents and purposes, it's a one-time job. Okay. Now, when we click on that one-time job, it provides us with a scheduling overview, right? Number 1, let's take a look at the actual schedule description, right? So remember those schedule settings that we set up at the very beginning, the naming convention? Well, that's what you're going to get. So if I want to override this, I can do so by highlighting this or clicking on that little box, and I'm going to go M. Johns, okay? Lighting, okay? So now I want to actually put in the lighting job, okay? I want to split this up a little bit. If I have a work order number, I can enter it in here. Non-required, but if you have a work order number, please enter it in. And you want to select the calendar in which you want to schedule it to. So in this case here, I'm going to schedule this to my lighting enhancement calendar. And when I go down here, I can schedule out all the actual tasks. I can do the garden beds, I can do the lighting, I can do the extra work and changes or the warranty repairs, but I'm actually just going to schedule the lighting for now, the 49.5 man hours of work. I'm going to click on next, and it will all automatically default to the current date, right? Today. So in this case here, I want to basically start this today, July 31st. We're going to work Monday to Friday, and we're going to be skipping all holidays, okay? We've got 49.5 man hours of work to do on this job with no schedule buffer. 8.5 hours are productive each day. 1.5 hours are unproductive based on my work calendar settings. And when I go to my planned crew, I can then choose which crew I want to send. So if I want to send Brad's crew, right, which is lighting crew number 2, I already know that Brad is going to be working with somebody else on this job, maybe Crystal, maybe Ellery, okay, on this actual job, okay? And it will automatically default to my automatic crew size, okay? Now with this, I will also want to turn on the smart rescheduling job or smart rescheduling feature. Now, what is this? The smart rescheduling feature, just to give everybody kind of a little bit of an overview or a brief little synopsis of what this feature actually does. If I were to schedule this job today, okay, which I am, okay, but when I actually schedule this job, if for any reason Mark calls me up and says, hey, Chris, I need the garden beds done first because I'm having a garden party in the backyard. And I know you're doing the lighting in the front yard, but I need the actual garden built and set up by the weekend or sooner than the actual lighting. So can you do that one first? So in that case, I want to turn on smart rescheduling. So after I've scheduled this job, if I get that call, I can actually put the garden beds in front of it and it will shift the lighting job out because it's going to be the same crew or it could be the same crew. Okay, it will schedule that job or move that job out accordingly. So if the garden beds is going to take 5 days, well, 5 days later, then we're going to start the lighting job. Okay, so again, it's entirely up to you guys how you want to use this feature, but rest assured, it's all done for you automatically in LMN. So I'll click on finish. Am I sure that I want to do this? I'm going to click on yes. Okay, so now if I open up my calendar view, okay, LMN, using the filters on the very top of my page, I can go down here and I can say, I want to see the lighting enhancements calendar. I don't want to see, what don't I want to see? I don't want to see, well, these are all my design builds, so these are all fine. I want to add in all of my crews. So I've got my lighting crew 2, 3, I've got my pool installation crew, I've got my design build crews, all right, so I can see all of their work and so on and so forth. Now, if I look at my month and go down to the 31st, Brad, in case you were curious, you're going to be working today, tomorrow, and Friday on that lighting enhancement. Okay, really nice and easy. So if for any reason, what I was talking about before about that schedule buffer that you guys can add in here, if I know that my crew can get started on the lighting, but they're not going to be able to do any of the install until Friday because my vendor has just let me know that I'm not going to get my lights and all my parts that I need for this job. Well, then basically gives me Thursday. I'm going to move this job to Friday. If I move day 2 to Friday, okay, it will automatically move Mondays or Fridays allocated hours to next Tuesday because I'm skipping the civic holiday on Monday. Okay, and so on and so forth. If I decide to move it back, okay, again, it will move that back to Friday, right? So now I'm working today through Friday, okay? So that's one service actually scheduled, right? Or one work area actually scheduled. So when you guys are scheduling your work, the best practices for you guys to follow along with is schedule the job right after importing an estimate or once your customer has paid their deposit, okay? Now, remember, guys, that if some of you guys are setting up milestone payments in your actual estimates, and one of those milestones is a deposit, so you can order the parts from your vendor, maybe, just maybe as a recommendation, schedule your job once you've got confirmation of when you're going to be receiving the materials that you're going to need to do the actual work area or the actual project, okay? So again, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. You can schedule it right away, put it on a particular date, order your parts or your materials, and then, adjust. But best practice or suggestion to you guys, if you guys are doing a deposit invoice so you can order the materials in advance, go ahead, get that deposit. Once that deposit's paid, order your materials. And once your vendor confirms your actual delivery or availability dates, then schedule the job for the day after, okay? Or a couple days later, whatever the case may be. Now, in LMN, you have a whiteboard and a calendar view. The whiteboard view will allow you to actually look at all the jobs per crew on a day-to-day basis, whereas the calendar view allows you to look at weekly, daily, or monthly, okay? And as always, if you guys want to look at what's been scheduled in your on your jobs or in your accounts, you can always run a print schedule report in LMN, okay? So if we want to look at our whiteboard to give you guys a quick overview, okay, this also gives us another example of what's available to use as a scheduling tool in LMN. So if I jump back into our LMN account and now go to my whiteboard view, so I'm going to go to schedule in the left-hand column, and I'm going to go to whiteboard, okay? If I look at, and if I select, okay, a particular crew here, if I want to look at the lighting crew, okay, I can see what the lighting crews got scheduled for them today, right? The lighting job at Mark John's, 92 White Heather Boulevard, we've got 20 labor hours, okay, or 20 man hours of work scheduled for today, okay? Now, looking at that, if I want to view the job, I can click on the view job, and it will open up a report or give me the overall job details, okay? Very, very straightforward if I need to make any changes, okay? Now, if I want to add any work, or if I want to schedule directly on the whiteboard, maybe the gardening crew needs some work, or if I want to give it to the other lighting crew, right? I have a gardening crew. I want to be able to see what they've got, right? They don't have any work available for them today, but remember that Mark Johns also has a garden that he wants built. So I can go in here and click on add work. I want to add in a one-time job, and now I actually have to look up that job. So in this case here, if I look up SH July 24, okay, it will bring up, oh, maybe it's no groups. Maybe that's why. Did she put it into a job group? Let's find out. If she didn't put it into a job group, that is a big no-no, okay? No, she did not. So we're going to add it into our design build job group, okay, and into our design build group, okay? So now when we're scheduling that work, one-time job, okay, I want to pick from my DB jobs. Okay, and then I want to look up '92 White Heather. There it is. Click on next. Okay, I can see here that the lighting is already scheduled for this. So I'm going to now schedule the garden beds. I'm going to put this onto my design build calendar. Click on next. Maximum to 92 characters. So we're just going to rename this one M. John's Gardens. Okay, click on next. Same kind of process as before. Choose the days of the week. I can schedule this one for today for my gardening crew. I've got 108 man hours. It automatically defaults to my gardening crew of 2 individuals, and I can reschedule any work if they conflict. Click on next. Yes. Okay. Now I've got that job. Okay. So again, if I look at the week for the gardening crew, using the whiteboard view, I can see that they've got the gardens being started on the 31st. Okay, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is the civic holiday. Okay, and then it picks up again on the Tuesday. Really nice and easy. If I go back to my calendar view and now select all my calendars and now choose the gardening crew as well. Okay, I can see what they're basically working on for the next few days. They're going to start this project today and they're going to complete it. If I go into August, okay, they're going to complete that job on the 9th. So again, it gives me all of that information, okay, using the actual whiteboard view. So the best practices when you guys are using the actual whiteboard view in LMN is basically use this to filter for your dates and crews. So you can see what one crew's working on, what days they're working on. If you want to drag and drop jobs between crews, you can do so from the whiteboard. You can optimize your jobs if they're doing multiple job site locations throughout the course of the day. You can use another tool that's available in unscheduled or called unscheduled routes for maintenance work primarily, okay, mostly for snow removal work, but that's another topic altogether. And of course, you can edit a crew schedule in bulk directly from the actual whiteboard itself. So if it does rain and there's jobs scheduled for that day, you could basically put in a rain delay or skip those days because of rain. And you can also generate a crew daily report as well. Okay. Now, the calendar view in LMN, okay, again, also allows you to schedule your work directly from the actual calendar view. So just like we did with the whiteboard view and scheduled the gardens to be installed to the gardening crew, you could go into the calendar view and look at the overall month and schedule work directly from the calendar view, just like we did with the whiteboard view, right? So there's nothing too complicated about that. So when you're scheduling from your calendar view, you can do the same thing where you can drag and drop jobs to different dates, filter by your individual work calendars, the dates, weekly, monthly, or daily, the crews, the managers, so you can filter and view what jobs are being done by whom and by when. You can update your scheduled job status from the actual calendar view. And you can also add in any particular daily instructions for each particular day on the calendar. So if I were to look at the actual calendar view and pick a particular day and say, hey, don't park on the driveway today, I can go into the actual work calendar. And actually, you know what? Rather than me telling you guys about this, let me show you. Okay, so in my calendar view, if I know that my crew can't park on the driveway today, I could go into the gardening bed or into the gardens, okay? Don't park, oops, don't park. Don't park on the driveway, okay? Put that in there as a daily instruction, and I would do the same thing with the lighting, okay? Don't park on the driveway. Please, I'm gonna be polite, okay? Click on okay, and now we're all good to go. All right, so now when my crews clock in, they'll get an actual task note that says don't park on the driveway. When they try and clock in, they've already done so. Well, they're just going to have to move their truck. All right, very, very simple and straightforward. So guys, that's basically it for scheduling, right? It's very, very straightforward. It's very, very easy. But what we now want to take a look at is, again, I'm running a little bit over time, so I hope you guys can stick around for a couple more minutes because there is one thing I wanted to show you, and that's in relation to our LMN Crew Mobile app. Now, how do your crews know what they're going to be working on per day? Now, as you guys may have already learned so far with the LMN Crew Mobile app, they can look up a job directly. They can look up their, via their timesheets and so on and so forth. They can look up by a job or job group or particular route or the individual job. But the easiest way for your crews to be able to find their jobs is to actually use our crew app and use the schedule availability for the actual crews of the day. Now, the LMN Crew mobile app is very, very simple to use. It eliminates your paperwork because everything becomes in a digital environment and, of course, available in the LMN software. It provides live real-time data on your crews and your overall job progress. It will allow you guys to not miss any more payroll hours to make sure that your crews are getting paid accurately and, well, fairly for the work that they're doing. It will also provide you on GPS verification on where your crews are when they clocked in. So it provides you with the actual GPS coordinates of the cell phone in relation to the nearest tower as to where they are. It will provide you with job and material tracking from the field. And of course, for maintenance routes, you guys will have that optimized routing. So all of the jobs that you optimize in your desktop software will be optimized on their schedule when they actually clock in, and all their jobs will be in order in the most efficient manner possible. So we want to take a very, very quick look at the LMN Crew mobile app. So I'm just going to get my phone going here. Okay, and walk you guys through it. So let me share my screen with you, and thank you for sticking around for those of you that are still with me. Okay, we're going to go to screen 2 and we're going to open up our phone app. Okay, so just a quick little thumbs up. Everybody can see my phone okay on screen? Yeah, perfect. Okay, so in LMN Crew, okay, we want to basically clock into either the lighting job or into that gardening job. So if I go into my LMN Crew mobile app, okay, when I start my day, okay, number one, I'm just going to indicate that there's only 2 of us today. So I'm going to take Jim out of my crew, and it's just going to be Dwight and I for today. We want to indicate who's actually going to be working or what job we're going to be doing. Now, again, I can look up by a job or from an actual job group. Okay, but the most efficient way for your crews to be able to see what they have to work on is by going to the actual crew schedule. And in this case here, I can go to Brad's crew, which is the lighting crew, or I can go to my gardening crew, depending on what job I'm going to be working on today. So I'm going to step into Brad's shoes for a moment, and I'm going to choose the lighting crew. And when I click on that, it's automatically going to show me that I've got 92 White Heather Boulevard in Toronto. If I want to look at the overall job itself and look at the actual lighting task, okay, I can see in my basic instructions here that I'm not to park on the driveway, please. And I have all of my crew notes, okay, or my specific instructions of what I need to have with me when I'm actually doing the actual lighting install, right? So again, I haven't even clocked in yet. So your crews, okay, using the LMN Crew mobile app can actually pick the next day, the day after, and they can see what they've actually got assigned to them for the following day. So again, if your crews only work Monday to Friday and you want them to, or they want to basically get ahead of what they've got scheduled for next week, okay, in this case here, I want to go to the gardening crew because remember that lighting is only for the 3 days. If I go to the gardening crew and on Friday, I can jump ahead and look at next Tuesday, and I can see that I'm doing a garden bed and planting at 92 White Heather Boulevard in Toronto next week. Okay. So again, it allows your crews to be able to preview what they've got scheduled, and they can basically prep ahead of time so that they're not spending as much time the day of loading and unloading or whatever the case may be or getting set up. So Friday, if they finish early, great, get back to the yard, get set up for Monday or Tuesday, depending on where you are and what stat holidays you observe, and kind of go from there. All right. So that, everybody, okay, is scheduling design build jobs 101. So what I want to give you guys before we kind of go through a review and a recap is a quick little poll and just kind of get an idea of what you guys have learned from today's actual session. So 3 very, very simple questions. So please do me an honor and go through each of the questions and choose your best answers. Okay, it's not a test. It's not a pass or fail. Just kind of want to get some ideas as to how much you guys have actually learned today. And in that, let's do a brief little recap of what we've covered off. So to recap, we set up our schedule settings in preparation for scheduling our jobs. And then we took that job that we created together last week or that you created with Shishini, and we scheduled it onto our calendar for overall organization. Okay. If there's any questions about LMN scheduling and the scheduling tool, please feel free to hit that chat button or Q&A at the very bottom of your screen, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have. Now, while you guys are thinking about your questions and maybe typing them out, let's talk about live virtual trainings such as these. If you guys are interested in handling or taking any more courses, or maybe you've got colleagues that should be taking one of these courses, well, please let us know by attending or registering for our live virtual trainings. Scheduling design build happens every single Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So if you guys are interested in joining or retaking or assigning one of your colleagues to take that course, get them registered. Okay. To register an LMN for any of our sessions, you're going to be going into your LMN accounts. Okay. Let me just share my screen with everybody again. go under help and resources and go to live virtual trainings. Here you'll see a calendar, and every single day a training course is available. So we can see the 31st. If I jump ahead to next month, for instance, okay, if I go ahead to August, I can see what's scheduled for next week or what's available to be registered for next week. Okay. So again, let's go into, there's the 31st, there's the 1st. So next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So next Wednesday at 10 a.m. is scheduled design build yet again. Additionally, okay, in your LMN accounts, you guys can access our LMN Academy, which we will be holding here in our Markham office in the next few coming weeks, where it's going to be live in-person training in 2 separate events. We'll have basic training available first, and then we'll do another 4-day training available for advanced LMN certification training. To access these within your accounts, okay, go into your LMN account once again, or onto our main webpage, and under resources, you're going to click on the Academy certification program. Whereas here, you're going to be able to join us live at LMN HQ for 4 days, or we'll also have available to you guys a 2-day snow program. Okay, these are happening in various cities across the US in the next coming weeks. Indianapolis, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Ohio, etc. Okay, these are going to be held. They're 2-day sessions where you guys can actually learn how to use your LMN accounts to manage your snow business. Okay, so again, on that same page, you can choose between either our 4-day LMN Academy or our 2-day LMN Snow Training. Additionally, one last feature that I wanted to introduce you guys to, if you haven't heard about this one already, is our weekly mastermind session, which is landscaping industry related 30-minute conversations from some industry professionals, such as Mr. Bradley himself, or other guest speakers. Okay, and again, they're free, they're 30 minutes, very insightful, very, very cool little sessions. Basically, you guys can register for one session or all of them, but they happen every single Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. Finally, yeah, I'm almost done. Okay. Finally, if you guys want to learn a little bit more about any of the features that are available in LMN or any of the tools that are available in LMN, we do have some self-help options as well. So please check out our help desk or our LMN Academy online. So depending on how your learning process works, if you're more, written and you want to walk through an actual help guide, that's our help desk. If you want to do video tutorials, check out our LMN Academy. And again, these are all available in your LMN accounts by going into your LMN subscription or into the help and resources at the very bottom of your screen and checking out either our help desk for our written tutorials or the LMN Academy for our video tutorials. Okay. Everybody has these accessible to you. They're free. They're included with your subscription. So again, take note and highly recommend that you guys go through these. It just gives you guys a little bit more insight into every single one of those features that's included. All right. So thank you for sticking around with me, guys. That's it. That's all. Don't forget that when this webinar closes, a 2-question little survey will pop up giving us some feedback on how you found today's content and if there's any notes or anything maybe in particular that you've learned today that you didn't know before. So please give us your feedback on today's session. If you want to say, hey, Chris did a really great job, hey, we don't mind that either. Okay. So please give us that feedback. It helps us make these sessions better for everybody. So on behalf of myself and the education team here at LMN, I want to thank you guys for joining me today for Scheduling Design Build. Please stay well. If you're heading out into the field, please stay safe. All right. And I look forward to seeing you guys in a session coming soon. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you soon. All right. Bye-bye.